Welcome to the Women's Business Center's Women Wednesday Entrepreneur Series. I'm Brandy Stitt, the Program Director for the Women's Business Center in Kansas City. Thank you all for joining us. Today, we are going to have the second session of our four-part social media series focused on Facebook 201 for Business. Last week, we did an overview of all the social media platforms in our session, and we're going to continue on with focusing on each of the different platforms over the next couple of weeks. We have been recording these sessions, and we will be recording this session today. All of the webinars will be posted on the Women's Business Center YouTube channel. I will share the link to the YouTube channel in the chat during the session so that you have that to be able to access later. I will also include in the chat a link to the Women's Business Center's Eventbrite page so that you can register for some of our upcoming sessions on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, which I know Aviva and Christina will be referencing during their session. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our presenters for today. We have Aviva Ajmera with Solve KC and Christina Hager with Ovations Digital. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hi, thanks so much, Brandy, and thanks so much for everyone for taking some time to be here and talk about Facebook for Business. So my name is Christina Hager, and I'm the president of Ovations Digital, and I'm a social media strategist. So what that means is I help individuals, brands, and organizations use social media strategically to reach your business goals. And that's a theme that Aviva and I talk about a lot because we really want to help you today. At Ovations Digital, we have clients that are on the B2C side and the B2B side. I have clients that are in finance, fashion, fitness, wellness, beauty, e-commerce, restaurants, as well as clients who are SaaS, tech, construction, consultants, physicians, attorneys, and individual thought leaders like speakers, authors, artists, people who are trying to launch movements, as well as nonprofits and arts organization. I love it all, and I love helping you all. I am a contributing writer for Forbes online about social media and social media strategy. Feel free to check out anything you might find on my website or might find on Forbes. And ultimately, Aviva and I are both business owners. So for the business owners, the solopreneurs, entrepreneurs on the call today, we know what it's like to be in your shoes. And you need to find the best way to get the most out of your social media in an effective manner and really see a strong ROI for your efforts. And that's what we hope we can teach you today.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, everyone. I'm Aviva Ajmera. I'm the CEO of Solve KC, and I've been giving a version of this class for over 6 years to entrepreneurs and marketing professionals. And I'm thrilled to be partnering with Christina today. For those of you that are new to our series, Christina is my personal social media guru. So I love the fact that we can partner together to teach this class. I also wanted to give a huge thank you to the Women's Business Center for sponsoring our entire social media series. This is our fourth fleet with them. So we've been teaching these classes since the middle of last summer, and we've had tremendous success with over 1,500 people across 40 states and 28 countries join us. And as I looked at the list today, we have a little over 100 people signed up. I knew we had a bit of a Zoom snafu, so we might see participants joining a little bit later. For those of you that have joined us before, thank you so much. And for those of you that have started to follow both of us on social media, we love that. So thank you. Like Christina, my firm has B2B and B2C clients across many industries, and we also help a lot of nonprofit organizations and work with many board of directors. Common to all of the work that we do with them is marketing. And a common thread with marketing is social media. So when I look back at my career, I worked for a large international consumer products goods company, 2 international B2B consulting firms, and now I have my own consulting firm. Social media was used differently in every single one of those companies. And even the way Christina and I use social media is very different because our businesses are very different. So our hope for you today, and anytime you partake in any of our classes, is that we give you the tools to help you figure out what is best for your business. So today, not only will we be teaching you tools, but we'll also share some tips and insights and some real business examples so that you really feel like you've got the facts and also tangible proof points on why and what is going to be best for your business. Like Brandy said, Brandy will include links in the chat throughout so that not only will you have a link to the recorded classes, but also the sign up for our future classes, which we will teach through the course of March. Now, we are going to be moving fairly fast today, like we always do, because we have so much great information that we want to share with you, but we will pause several times throughout to answer questions. So our request is that you go ahead and put your questions into the Q&A or into chat, and we will do our very best to either answer them there or through the class live. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? We will start with some facts just to kind of ground you with the data on how important social media is with our business, for business, and then also talk a little bit about what does all that vernacular mean, because for some people it can be a little bit confusing. And then we're going to get into the really good stuff for today. We'll talk algorithms, setting up a business page, Facebook ads, groups, going live, and then we'll start to wrap up with sharing some tools that will help make your social media efforts a little bit easier, a little bit fancier. We'll talk trends throughout, and then as I said, we will have Q&A throughout. And then we will wrap the last few minutes with a bit of a playbook for you. So we are going to summarize the do's and don'ts for you. We will share tips on building out your calendar, and then you will see in the handouts that Brandy sent you in advance, we have a handful of the slides of our presentation for you so that you can make notes, and we have calendar slides in there so you can actually start to build your calendar out as well. Okay, so I always like asking, what comes to mind when you think social media? Because honestly, it's different for everybody. It could be the picture on the left where, you know what, it's really kind of the young people's thing. My kids or my grandkids, those millennials or those Gen Zs, they've kind of lost the art of communication. They don't know how to talk anymore. They don't know how to write anymore. All they do is send Snapchats or text and, oh my gosh, what's happened? Or it could be, you know, I know I need to get into it for my business, but it feels a little bit like 8th grade chemistry class. And I'm afraid if I mix the wrong things together, I'm going to have a big explosion on my hands. We promise you, you will not have a big explosion on your hands. Or for those of us that grew up in the day of the Rubik's Cube, it could be, gosh, I know it's really complicated and I know there's a solution, but it's going to take me a while to figure it out. Well, for all of these things, we will be addressing the aspects so that it's not confusing, you're not afraid of it, and it's not too hard. Okay, so this is a brand new statistic that we literally got less than 2 weeks ago. If you remember one thing today on why social media is important for your business, Hootsuite just published that in 2020, 1.3 million new users joined social media every single day. Every single day. So your consumers, your customers, your donors, if you're a nonprofit organization, they're on social media. So you have to figure out what is right for your organization when it comes to social media so you can speak to all of them. Another great statistic that we have is around why and how social media impacts buying decisions. So did you know that 74% of consumers rely on social media to make buying decisions? That is an absolutely huge number. And more recently, we got the data that 75% of millennials purchasing decisions are influenced by the brands that they see on social media. So why does that matter for you? Simply put, if your business has a product or a service, you need to be on social media. And if your target consumer happens to be in the age range of 23 to 38, those are the millennials, their spending power today is $200 billion. In their lifetime, it's $10 trillion. So even if they are not the core of who your consumer is, they will age into whoever the core of your demographic is. So you need to begin communicating with them today. We also got some great data about a week ago from Sprout Social. And they found that in 2020, this number has now gone up. It's now at 89% of consumers buy from brands they follow on social media over those brands' competitors. That's a 16% increase from last year. So you may say, well, you know, in my industry, nobody's really on social media. Well, then you should be on social media. Or you might be saying, some of my competitors are on there, but a lot of them aren't. Well, guess what? If you know that 89% of consumers buy from brands they follow on social media over other brands in that space, we want you to be part of the brands that are in that space. So they're going to buy from you.
Absolutely. We want you, whoever's on the call today, to have that advantage. And Aviva gave you some great statistics. She talked about millennials. She talked about a generation that expects you to do business in a different way. We have, for the first time, have people that expect you to seek them out. And they're expecting to find that on social media, that they care just as much about how a product makes them feel. And Aviva gave an amazing stat about millennials' buying power. And I'll add one for my B2B friends on the call today. For the first time ever at the end of last year, at the end of 2020, millennials started to make up over 50% of the workforce here in the United States. They overtook Generation X. And so it's not unheard of to think that if you're trying to sell a service or a product to another business, the person on the other end of the computer or the phone or the person researching it is a millennial. They're the most populous generation in the workforce now. And so when we talk about, you know, how are people finding your products? Why are they using social media? They're obviously buying for brands they follow on social over the competitors, but what else are they using it for? And so this is a great chart just talking about why people might follow your brand or business on social. They want to learn about you. They want to learn about your company, and they want to stay up to date on news. That was especially prevalent in this last year when COVID sort of rocked how a lot of businesses were operating. Of course, they want to learn about promotions, discounts, but this is so interesting. A lot of people follow brands or businesses on social media because they want to be entertained. They want to be educated. They want to connect with people. They want to communicate with people. And this is a huge through line for social media in general, but especially in 2020 and 2021 on how people are using social media. So think about how you use social media for your channel. Notice what you don't see here is You'll notice what you don't see here is people just want to be sold to all the time. They want all of these other aspects of it too. And that connection is huge.
Right. So this next slide is in your handouts. We call it our money slide. It has data in it from at least 30 different sources that we have pulled together in one place for you. If you've been in any of our classes before, we always like to include this slide. However, we update it every single time we teach a class. So I've noted in the upper left-hand corner that this was updated in March of 2021. Just in case you have an older version, you can toss that and replace it with this. So as we look at the biggest social media platforms for business, what this chart does is really break down for you the differences as you think about if you're not on any social media platforms, which ones to begin on. And if you're already on one, maybe which second one to choose, or even if you know what the right social media platforms are, and Facebook happens to be one of them, which is why you're here today, it will give you some clarity on demographically who is on Facebook. So Facebook, by and far, the #1 social media site, over 2.7 billion users. This is an updated number for 2021, with 70% of US adults. Now, most of us that have teenagers in our home know that they're not really into Facebook, but 51% of them have a page. Okay. And from a business standpoint, there are over 90 million Facebook business pages. On average, people spend about an hour on Facebook daily. They don't do it all in one shot. It's usually broken up at least 6 times throughout the day. And then when we think of from a visual standpoint or a content standpoint, what is best for Facebook, it is clearly photos, videos, links, and events. LinkedIn is the largest professional network. It is business oriented. However, LinkedIn has changed so much, not even just in the past 5 years, but in the past 15 to 20 years. For those of us that first knew it as just a digital resume site, it is so much more than that. And we have a LinkedIn specific class coming up in 2 weeks. We're taking next week off because we know a lot of folks have spring break going on. But from a demographic standpoint, 40 million business pages, 79% are 35 and older, so professionals, with 90 million senior level influencers and 64 million decision makers. So for many of you, LinkedIn is absolutely what you should be on, especially if you are B2B, if you're on any boards, if you're any kind of a thought leader. For others, it might not be one of your top 1 or top 2 platforms. They did just add stories, so trying to be, I guess, a little more personable is the way to think of it. They just added it in Q4 of 2020. It is ideal, yes, for networking, but also for reinforcing your brand and building professional credibility. And it is ideal for business development and B2B businesses, but again, not limited, okay? That's just kind of the biggest swipe at it. Instagram, second most popular social platform. It is a social sharing site around pictures and 60-second videos. It is a very easy, very pretty site. 1 billion users. There's a lot of people on Instagram. Now, age-wise, it's kind of the flip of LinkedIn. So 90% are less than 35. However, the largest demographic is women aged 18 to 24, but 55 plus is actually the greatest growth. 75% of US businesses use Instagram, okay? And if you're not familiar with it, just get on it. You don't need to create a business page or anything like that yet. Just get on as a person and see what's on there. It's actually pretty fun. They've got great functionality that allows you some efficiencies to share on Facebook and Twitter. If you love hashtags, Instagram is for you. It is the platform that encourages, and I would say even tolerates, the most number of hashtags. People on average spend 53 minutes a day. So again, almost an hour, not all at once, definitely broken down. It is ideal on your mobile device. It is perfect if you are in the business of anything artistic or creative, anything involving food or entertainment, travel and beauty, very image-friendly businesses. Twitter limits your post to 280 characters. Its purpose is conversation and customer questions and news. They do have 600 million users, and the most recent data we have is 187 million monetizable daily active users. So in other words, we're talking about conversion into buying something. From a gender standpoint, it's about 50-50. You can see the rest of the demographics. It is where hashtags got started. 67% of businesses are on Twitter. Twitter is a commitment, and we'll talk more about that when we teach our Instagram and Twitter class at the very end of March. It is best for PR, news. It is awesome for real-time customer engagement. There is literally no other platform that does what Twitter does from that standpoint. And they also use a lot of photos and a lot of videos and a lot of links.
Thank you, Aviva, for all of that information. Super helpful. And hopefully, as you go through today, you can start to think about if you're on the right channels for your business, or what are the other channels that you may need to add. And so if you know you need to add LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter after today, sign up for those 201 classes with us so you can learn how to use those channels. And the last thing sort of we need to set as our foundation is we need to learn how to talk the talk. So I'm practicing Spanish a lot with my daughter. She's embarrassing me. She's 5 and she knows so much more than I do because she learned how to speak it and talk the language and speak that language. And so I want to teach you to speak social, so that when we throw around these terms or metrics, you'll know what we're talking about. And that's essential that you can do that for your business so you can really measure the results. So when we talk about a feed, that's just when you open up your phone or you open up your computer, that's the rolling list of content that you see on any particular channel. We call it the Facebook feed, since we're talking Facebook today. Now, reach. This refers to the number of people who have either viewed your ads or whose screens your post may have appeared on at least once. Now, the impressions, that's the total of number of times, usually it refers to a Facebook ad, that they hit their screen for the first time. So a little bit different metric. Engagement. This is a huge metric for you to understand. It talks about the number of actions that people take involving your post. So someone engaging with your Facebook post, it could be them liking it, sharing it, commenting on it, or there's those different little emojis or emoticons rather that they can clap or heart or give the angry face. Those are all engagements. When we get into paid amplification on Facebook, like boosting your posts or paid ads, we need to talk about the metrics of how to value that. And Facebook gives you things in either CPCs, which is the cost per click, or CPMs, that's the cost per 1,000 impressions. And if you're wondering if you have a good CPC or a good CPM for your industry, and if you're wondering how your numbers stack up against those in your industry, the good thing is Facebook, Hootsuite, Sprout Social, all of these places publish reports telling you what an average cost per click or an average cost per impressions is. So you can always Google it to find out, or contact someone like me or Aviva who could help you with that. For traffic, this is an objective designed to drive people to your website or to your app or your white paper or whatever that may look like. And then consideration is really any objective that gets people to think about your business, to seek more information. And that's really important for Facebook ads. And here's why all knowing these things is important. Because you want people engaging with your social channels. But here's the thing, the average engagement rate for a Facebook post is 0.25%. Not great if you think about your page having 100 followers, right? And the average reach for a Facebook post is 5.2%. So what that means is if you have 100 followers, basically anything that you're posting on Facebook might only be 5 people. We're posting it organically, which means when you're posting, you're putting no money behind it. However, there are things that you can do to increase your engagement rate, to encourage engagement, and to increase your reach for your posts without money. So Aviva and I are going to make sure that we talk about what those things that you can do today are.
So just so everybody knows, those are updated numbers. And when Christina and I looked at them, we were like, oh my gosh, those numbers are so low, and it's kind of heartbreaking. And not in any way do we want to demoralize you, because literally now we're going to get to all the good stuff. Okay. So we covered all the data. We covered all the groundwork on things. Now we're going to get to how do you make sure what you're doing on Facebook for your business is overriding those super low numbers on engagement and organic reach? Okay, so a few things. The charts on the right give you a breakdown of key demographics, but also we just got this new data from Sprout Social around engagement levels. These are very averaged out, but I wanted you to take a look at it. Okay, so sometimes people ask, well, how often should we post? The minimum is 3 times a week and the maximum is 10. Time does matter. So what time of day you are posting does actually make a difference. So the chart will give you some average numbers. In general, you can see it is the work week, it is midday, and it's Wednesdays and Thursdays. But you should also take that extra step and go ahead and Google specific to your industry what those numbers look like, because certain industries skew earlier in the day, others skew late in the day. So make sure you know what's best for your industry. So then how do you optimize so that you can really get that engagement and reach those numbers to be better than the super low numbers that we just showed you? This slide, by the way, I believe is in your handout, so feel free to make notes on it. First and foremost, you've got to have great content. So part of that is making sure that you're authentic and you know how to speak to your audience. Photos, by and far, will generate more engagement, 120% more engagement. Videos these days are about 11% of Facebook posts. Just to keep in mind, there are 8 billion videos viewed every single day. So it's definitely something we encourage you to have as a part of your mix on Facebook. It doesn't mean every post needs to have a video in it, but we certainly encourage it in the mix. If you do a Facebook Live, it is 4 times more likely to get watched than anything that's pre-recorded. So Facebook Live is going to get even more engagement than, let's say, a video. Posts that are shorter than 250 characters. So if you ever have those friends that everything they do says more ... we don't want all of your posts to be more ... Okay, that happens once you hit 250 characters. So the shorter they are, you're going to get 60% more engagement. And then this part just makes sense. If you ask a question to your consumers, your customers, what do you like better, this or that? So people do that sometimes with new logos. Sometimes they do that with merchandise that they're bringing in. Sometimes they do that with products. So it could be artwork, it could be jewelry, it could be, hats, whatever the case might be. They have 2 times as much engagement because you're asking people, you're asking them their opinion. And then hashtags. We're going to talk about hashtags in depth in all of our future classes. Facebook, no more than 3 hashtags. And here's what I learned from Christina late last year. If you have more than 3 hashtags on Facebook, you're actually going to get penalized by the Facebook algorithm. And we don't want you to get penalized. When Christina told me that, I literally went back and looked at all my Solve KC Facebook posts. And I was like, how many did I have more than 3 hashtags on? And I went in and I edited them so they were all back to 3. So that, it's important to know because that number is different for every single platform. So in a way, it's good news. It's only 3. Now, some new data that we got. 98.3% of Facebook users access Facebook through their mobile devices. And if you slice it even thinner, 80% only access it on their mobile device. So the reason we tell you that is you need to have that in mind because we all know as we work off of our phones or our iPads versus our desktops, it's a different user experience. It's a different interface. So if you know the majority of users are accessing off mobile, keep that in mind as you think about what your content configuration is for your posts.
Such a good tip. So there always comes a time where people want to know, well, why does Facebook show me some posts but not other posts? And okay, I'm going to post at the right time and I'm going to use some video and I'm going to go to Facebook Live, but what why does Facebook decide who sees what? And that's called the Facebook algorithm. And so what Facebook does is it values content in a different way. And the Facebook algorithm simply means Facebook decides who sees what posts from which companies or personal posts and in which order. So you'll notice if you use Facebook personally, you don't see your posts in chronological order in your feed. And you may only see posts from what feels like only a few of your friends and family. You keep seeing the same 10 people's posts over and over again. Your aunt, your sister, your child, your best friend. But then where is my cousin I just connected with? Where is this brand that I followed? Where's this business? Why am I not seeing them? And it's essential as a business owner or a marketer that you understand how the Facebook algorithm works, because then you can do your best at trying to beat the Facebook algorithm at its own game. So remember, firstly, your audience only sees about 5 or 6%, 5 or 6% of your audience sees anything you post. And why is that? The algorithm values different content in different ways. So first, Facebook takes an inventory of all the posts available to deliver to one person. It includes family and friends and businesses, everything. Now, in 2018, Facebook did an update to their algorithm, and now they prioritize friends and family over businesses. So you know that's a little bit of a hurdle as a business owner or a business Facebook page that you have to climb over. But we know this, so we're going to figure out how to do it. Secondly, there are signals that tell Facebook what each post is about. And this is the one thing that marketers, business owners, people that use a business Facebook page, we have impact over that. And in the next slide, I'll tell you how. Then Facebook predicts how each individual user will respond to each post. And that's basically based on their history. So for example, if I went in and I commented, liked, and shared all of the posts that Aviva posted from her business page from Solve KC, it's more likely that the prediction Facebook would give is that I would engage with that post. So therefore, it's more likely that Facebook will show me a Solve KC business post as opposed to another business who maybe I follow, but I don't really interact with. So that's the predictive part. And then they take all of this information, Facebook calls it thousands and thousands of data points, and they give each post a final score. Phew, this is a lot of work going on behind the scenes of Facebook that we really don't know a lot about, right? But it's important to know that's what the machine is doing in this platform we're using. And here's the thing. Half of us don't really understand how the posts appear in our feed. So we want to make sure that you're on the half of adults that understand why you're seeing what you're seeing on Facebook. So now what do we do about that? I mentioned that their signals are things you can control. So firstly is relationships. Who does your user typically interact with? If they've interacted with your business before, simply put, chances are that they'll interact with you again. So the more you can get someone to interact with your page, remember we talked about engagements, likes, shares, comments, the more that Facebook will give you the signal that you have a relationship with that person. Content type, Aviva talked about this a little bit. Pictures, links, videos, they're all weighted and weighed in different ways. Facebook loves videos. It really loves Facebook Lives. It likes pictures. What Facebook doesn't like is a big block of text with no picture. And it makes sense. The end user doesn't really love engaging with it. What catches their eye as they're on their phone? Oh, a video. Oh, a picture, a big old block of text, especially since we know most people are coming in from their phone. They're probably not taking the time to read it. Then there's a popularity score. We talked more about those engagements, likes, shares, comments, reactions, and then recency. Your posts are still prioritized first. So this is another reason that you need to post with regularity. If you only ever post on a Monday, by Wednesday, your stuff is kind of old news. So it's important that you space your posts out, post, of course, on those key days where they'll have more engagements, but also make sure that you always have a fairly recent post that's going up on your business page. Now, this is super interesting. Facebook added stories a couple years ago, and they're a great way to break through the algorithm. And you know why? They are not governed by the algorithm. So all of these rules that I just talked about, Facebook stories, it doesn't apply. Facebook stories just runs chronologically along the top of the person's phone or the top of the person's Facebook. And it's just a first come, first serve. And they're not broken up by businesses versus individuals. So if you use stories on Instagram, the same rules apply on Instagram as do Facebook. And if you're thinking of a way to break through the algorithm, 58% of people visited a brand's website after watching a Facebook story. Aha. So this is brand new data at the beginning of 2021. So if you're looking for a way to sort of break through the algorithm and really get in contact with your followers from your business page, create a Facebook story.
So I'll tell everyone, the first time I created a Facebook story, I was a little nervous, but Christina kind of helped me through it because that's what Christina does. They're not hard, you guys. And what I would say is just try it. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to have an 8th grade chemistry class explosion. There is literally no downside to doing it, and you'll get the hang of it. They actually make it pretty easy. You can decide what the content is, what you want it to look like. And if you're not sure what a story is, because I just got a question, can you explain Facebook story? We're going to talk about it a little bit more, but if you have a personal page on Facebook, just open it up and you'll see along the top, there are stories there. So what we're saying is just do one for your business. And you can follow a bunch of them over time to get a sense of, oh, I really like that. Or gosh, on that one, the font was way super small. I want to make sure I don't do that. Or whatever the case might be.
So stories we'll talk more about in the Instagram section as well. But basically, for those of you who don't know, they're little 10-second clips of video or still images, and they disappear in 24 hours. They're very casual looking. They don't need the same level of branding as your posts. And you can put stickers, polls, really get creative with the way they look. And, you can just open up your phone and just try to make one, which is great. So let's talk about things that will kill your Facebook engagement. So we talked about things that are good for Facebook engagement. Here are things that are bad for it. Engagement baiting. So I said you want to try to encourage engagement for sure, which means you want to ask people their opinions. You want to talk with and not at your followers. But when you're constantly asking people to vote for something, or you're like, if you like this, press yes, or that kind of thing, and you're constantly doing those type of posts over and over and over again, Facebook recognizes that you're kind of trying to cheat the system and it doesn't like it. So it'll show it to less people. If you're spreading false information, just don't do it. But also, if it's flagged as false information, Facebook will downrank that post, meaning they will show it to less people. If you are constantly sending people to your website, meaning every post has a link to your website, Facebook doesn't love it. And here's why. Facebook wants you to stay in the platform and play, which is why they like videos, because then you'll stay on Facebook and watch longer. They don't love it if you're constantly sending people somewhere else. So while, of course, it's probably part of your strategy to send people to your website, you just can't do it every time. You have to be conscientious about how often you're posting any third-party link, including your website. We don't want to post the same thing over and over again, and same with your ads. Eventually, people will fatigue of it. Literally, they'll grow bored of it, and Facebook will recognize that. And again, it will not show it to as many people.
Okay, so I'm giving you a heads up. Now's a great time to ask questions if you haven't already. We are going to share a question that we get really often because we think it's on a lot of people's minds. What are the tips to break through the algorithm and see great engagement? So we've kind of sprinkled them in the last 10 or 15 minutes, but here we're going to pull it all together for you. And Christina's going to walk you through it.
So social media needs to be social. So you need to develop a conversation. If you can get your audience talking with you as a business or brand, amazing. If you can get them talking with one another, incredible. Facebook also loves that. And so it prioritizes when your followers start talking to one another. And by that, I mean, they comment one on each other, their comments. People love it. When you post consistently and when your audience is online. If you have a Facebook business page, and we'll talk more about a business page, you have an insights button that tells you when your audience is most active online. That's when you should post. If you haven't grown your Facebook page large enough to be able to access that data, Aviva suggested just Google and find out when certain demographics are online, and it'll tell you. There's tons of reporting out there. Use Facebook stories, which we talked about. Ask for user generated content. This means ask your followers, people who use your product or services, to take a picture using it or doing it or unboxing it or whatever that may be, and have them post it and tag you. Amazing. People love to do this. People who use social media regularly, we love to do this, and for brands and businesses, it's amazing sort of free publicity and advertising for you. Use the best practices that we talked about. You can boost posts. We'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about Facebook ads. And then something interesting that I just found out this week is that using those different reactions, the sad, surprised, angry little buttons, Facebook really likes that, and it prioritizes content in which people are doing different reactions. So just something to think about. And then of course, create content that entertains, educates, and inspires. You don't always have to use social media to just sell. There's a way to share and connect without always selling. All right, and one more fun fact. Every Facebook user, so Aviva and I, just as using Facebook personally, we have 30 slots for favorite pages and people. And those 30 pages get a free pass from the algorithm, which means they show it to you first. They don't worry about how it ranks in the algorithm. So you can ask your followers to make you one of their favorites. Most people don't even know that they can do this. If you're wondering how to do that, Facebook tells you how to do that. Just Google, how do I tell my followers to see my posts first? And Facebook will walk you through it.
Google is your friend, you guys. We want you to know that. Tremendous resource. Okay, so I don't have any new questions because I've answered a bunch through chat, and we've answered a few of them live as we were going. This will not be your only opportunity to ask questions, but I think we're just going to move on now to the specifics of a business page. And again, just go ahead and send your questions in, and we'll keep answering them throughout our time today. So we talked about Facebook kind of in general, and you might be asking, well, why do I need a Facebook business page? So Christina and I both have a personal page, and then there's an Ovations digital page for Christina's business and a Solve KC page for my business. And here's why we do it. It's a way to gain insights on your customers, to gather their emails if you choose to do that. It's a great way to enhance your customer service to them because you're interacting with them. You can also run targeted ads so you can get a better return on your investment, which you can't do from your personal page. It's a great way to build brand loyalty, to send people to your website where you can really showcase your company, your offering, your team members, your services. And it's a great way to keep an eye on your competition, just like they'll keep an eye on you, but that's okay as well. So a few fun facts. 78% of consumers say they've discovered products on Facebook. And I could say I'm part of that 78. It's definitely been the case for me. So if you're a new business and your biggest issue is awareness, you need people to be aware that you exist. Or if you're a business that used to do a lot of your selling through shows or through on-site events, and now because of COVID, everybody is virtual. Again, Facebook would be a great place for you to just kind of re-energize all of that. 2/3 of users visit a local business page at least once a week. So many of us that are on the call today are from Kansas City, but many are from not Kansas City. Here in Kansas City, we are very much think local first. But we know a lot of communities are like that all over the country and all over the world. So again, something for you to think about as far as kind of a loyalty when it comes to this platform and local businesses. And then this super fun fact is, as the hashtag support local really took hold, I mean, really trended in 2020, people shifted their focus to local companies, products, and services. So don't forget, that is a unique thing that you own in the big world marketplace. So one of the things Christina will talk about when she talks about ads and talks about targeting is the ways that you can narrow down a region or a city or a certain demographic. So some of that is good for you to keep in mind, not only as you think about content, but also as you think about how you want to target who an ad might go to, or just an attractiveness of a particular post that you make. So a little bit more about Facebook business pages. One way to think of it is your Facebook storefront. So people can search on it and it's public. So if anybody was to search on your brand name or to search on you, that Facebook page would actually come up. It allows potential customers, so people who don't know very much about you yet, to learn about your services and potentially to read reviews if any of your clients or customers or consumers have written reviews. It allows for customizable and measurable advertising. It's a great place to showcase hours, address, and directions if you have a physical site. This was so important in 2020 as different communities had different restrictions on when places could be open, or people just knowing, our down hours, we're just not going to pay for electricity and staff because people aren't coming anyways. A lot of times when people search to get open hours, their online search might not give them the most updated hours, but you can always have the most updated hours on your actual Facebook page. It does increase your SEO or search engine optimization to have a business page on Facebook. And again, it offers you a great opportunity to connect and engage with your customers. So we are going to share with you 3 local organizations. So a barbecue restaurant, a nonprofit organization, and a bank here in Kansas City that all do a great job, not only on their Facebook pages, but across multiple social media platforms. And the reason we like sharing it with you, go ahead and follow them and see what they do. Look at the range of content. And with everything we're teaching you today, break it down. See how many of them ask a question. See how many have a video. See how many use hashtags. See how many send you to their link. To their website. It's going to be a mix, which is really what we want for you. So it can serve as inspiration for you. So a fun fact, customers who like a business on Facebook are almost 80% more likely to make a new purchase for them. So just like Christina was saying, whether the request is, hey, please have me as one of your favorites, or, something new and exciting, please like our Facebook page. And you can actually even on your personal page say, please check out my business page. It's called blah, 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 as a way to kind of build awareness if you need to do that. Again, it's a great way to just kind of use the resources and the power of a business page on Facebook.
So now let's talk about the paid portion of Facebook. So using Facebook ads. So why? First, we talk about sort of what organic or non-paid reach will get you. How many or what percentage of people are actually seeing your posts? So sometimes if you want to increase that number or drive traffic or consideration or a host of other initiatives, you can use an ad. Facebook ads help you amplify that reach. They help you micro target your audience, and Facebook ads are super cost effective. In the realm of digital, Facebook ads are still today the most cost effective kind of advertising you can do. And another reason is your ability to change your ads. You can change them daily, weekly, monthly. You can A/B test ads. A billboard won't let you do that. A Facebook ad will. You can find new leads, drive traffic. I mean, sort of the world is your oyster with Facebook ads. And here's why. You choose your objective, what you want to happen because of that ad. Some people, all they want from an ad is they want someone to like their page. They want a new follower on their page. Sometimes they want someone to engage with their page. Sometimes they want to drive traffic to a website. Sometimes they want to generate a lead. They want someone to actually give them their name and email, whatever that objective is. You set your budget and your audience. You decide where you want to advertise. And by this, we mean Facebook gives you a lot of options: desktop only, mobile only. Facebook and Instagram, you can now run ads together. So sometimes it gives you that option, tons of options we can talk about. And then you manage and measure that ads. And here's the thing. The number of pages liked by a typical Facebook user grew more than 50% in 2020, which means you've got a lot of competition out there. So Facebook ads are one way that you could sort of, again, break through the algorithm or really get onto the screen of the person and your potential or past customer or client. So how do you build the ads? Well, we talked about creating a campaign with an objective, but that objective should be linked to your business goal. So if you know your goal is you need to make people more aware of your business, or you need to really build that brand identity, then you might choose something like a brand awareness campaign. If you just want to drive traffic to your website, if you just want a bunch of people to go to your website, then your traffic campaign. If you want to get video views, let's say you have an awesome video that explains the ethos of your company or exactly what services you offer, maybe that's what you want to do. So really think about what that objective is and make sure you're linking it to business goals. And then you name your campaign so you remember what it is. I would suggest A/B testing different copy and assets. Now, Facebook has made it super duper duper easy how to do that. And you just click a box that says dynamic options, and Facebook will sort of decide what picture goes with which set of copy best. And you don't even have to worry about a lot of it, which is really, really nice. Then you target your demographic and build your audience. So you can create and save an audience based on their interests, location, gender, income level, behaviors, hobbies, all of these pieces of information. A saved audience is amazing and it will serve you well. Then you can create a custom audience. This is a really valuable type of audience because this audience is someone who's maybe already gone, the audience that's already gone to your website, or maybe people who have already downloaded your app or downloaded a white paper or engaged with your service. And then perhaps you even want to create it based on your email list. Super valuable. The last audience you can make is a lookalike audience. You have to have a custom audience first. And so once you have your custom audience and you input them into the system, Facebook will literally create a lookalike audience who looks like your audience in terms of demographic, location, age, interests. So if you are a local preschool and you have a custom audience of emails of moms and dads that go to that preschool, whose kids go to that preschool, you know that if Facebook creates a lookalike audience, you're probably going to end up with moms and dads with kids similarly aged and similar interests and similar demographics who might be interested in that. So you can see sort of the ramifications and implications for your business and how you might be able to do that. And here is the thing, 93% of Facebook's ad revenue comes from mobile. Are we seeing a theme about the phone and Facebook? People are just using Facebook from their phones. Forget about it. That's what they're doing. So when ads, experience for them to be seeing them on their phones, just like now when you create your posts. Lastly, I said we talk about Facebook ad placement. And I'll just give you the biggest tip here. Facebook asks, do you want to pick the placement or do you want Facebook to pick it? Let Facebook pick it. Let them choose for you. They will choose the best possible outcome based on where your audience is. So they'll choose mobile, sidebar ads, main feed ads based on your budget, your industry, and your target demographic. Just let Facebook choose it for you. And then of course your budget and schedule. So you can run ads for as little as I think $5 or $10, maybe now the minimum. And you can run them for a week. You can run them for 3 days. I will say, if you are going to run an ad and you really want to see the success of that ad, I would probably run an ad for a week. That's sort of the best minimum that you can say how it's going to perform day in and day out. You can always pause an ad or you can turn off an ad if you don't like it. And you can do that early for sure. But I think that's a good sort of schedule to stay with. Then you build your ad. So you can build an ad with video, static image, carousel image, which is more than one. So you'll see the format that you can choose. And then it'll actually, Facebook ads will show you a preview of what that ad's going to look like on a phone versus on desktop. Super helpful. And we put up this Lyft ad, an amazing ad that came out in the summer last year, right sort of in the heart of COVID. The colors are great. The call to action is great. The copy is fantastic. The picture is great. I mean, they're like checking off all the boxes. And it's no wonder that this ad was super successful for Lyft. And it actually, I think, won some ad awards in 2020 because it's really doing everything that this ad needs you to do. The call to action, you can see where it says use app. What their campaign was aimed at was getting people to download the app. So it's not always going to say use app there. It might say learn more, call us, contact us, see our website, a variety of things there. And then if you want your ads to really perform the best, especially if you're going to drive any traffic to a website, you have to install what's called the Facebook Pixel for data. So if you have a web guy or a web gal, just say, can you please install my Facebook Pixel? If you are your own web guy or web gal, my hat's off to you. And it's a pretty simple little piece of code. Again, Google how to do it. It's a step-by-step instruction. You want to test everything, meaning you don't want to just put up a set of ads, let them run for a month and forget about it. Check in on your ads, see how they're doing. Get rid of the ones that aren't doing very great. And then use user-generated content. Remember, we talked about that maybe 10 minutes ago. If you have some really cool user-generated content, repurpose it and make your ads out of that. How awesome. It'll really increase your social proof and people really like it. And in fact, very, very expensive, amazing brands actually use this tactic. You see this a lot with makeup, fashion. I know Nike does this. A ton of brands do this. Car companies do this. So it's really a great way to take content that someone else created and use it. Use that lookalike audiences. That's a great way to reach new audiences that might be interested in your products. Use your email list if you have it. And I always say beware of ad fatigue. So if you're not sure what that is, picture that, have you guys seen the same commercials over and over again on TV? Don't we get so sick of seeing those commercials? It's the same for Facebook ads and posts. If you keep showing the same ad to your target demographic, eventually they reach a point where they just don't want to see it anymore. So luckily, Facebook gives you what's called a fatigue score. You can see it right where you build your ads. And if you have a score, a fatigue score of 4 or under, you're fine. If it's above 4, you need to probably change out your ads. So that's my very specific tip of the day. And we put some Facebook ads that we really love. We have a B2B company, Monday.com. That's a project management tool. Again, they're hitting, the right colors. They're trying to attract Mac audiences. So they're using those colors and logoing. They're keeping the copy simple. They're being obviously what they want. And then Bombas, one of my personal e-commerce companies, value, they're getting some interest great photo. Both of them use great colors. So just two examples of ads that aren't boring, but they're pretty simple. And so your ads don't have to be super complicated. You just need really a great visual, several great visuals, and then some copy that's going to be interesting enough for your target audience.
That's fantastic information, Christina. Okay, everyone, we're at the point where we're going to take questions if you've got them. So Christina asked a question that a lot of people ask, which is, how much money should I set aside for Facebook ads? And her recommendation was really just start with $5 or $10. So it's not like it's going to cost you hundreds or thousands of dollars. And again, kind of our mantra is just try it. Nothing bad is going to happen. Just try it and see what happens. So often we get asked, how do I know if I need both a personal and a business page? And here are our answers for that.
So if you have a business, you need a business page. A personal page is just for you to use personally. It's for you to connect with your college friends. It's for you to shop online, but it doesn't give you the access to targeted audience data or the ability to run ads or to look like a storefront. It's just going to be the same old posting and chatting with your friends. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're a business, you should be using a Facebook page, business Facebook page. Now, if your audience isn't on Facebook, which I find it hard to believe, or if you're just going to use Facebook to sell over and over and over and over again, or if you just don't have time for it, then don't use a Facebook business page because there won't be a good return on your efforts.
Okay, we've got a great question from one of our participants today, and it is, when you post a video to your Facebook page, Facebook asks if you want to pay to boost it. Is it always better to separately create a campaign and an ad using that video and ad manager for more control on the audience, or can boosting give you the same control and metrics?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked this. What a wonderful question. So my answer is yes, but. So when you boost it, you still have the ability to choose an audience, to choose a demographic of whom you want to boost it to, but it's limited. Basically, it's either I'm posting something in my feed and I want to sort of amplify the reach of it by boosting it. And it gives you a couple factors of how you can amplify it. You can pick some interests. You can pick a way to do it by demographic or by area, like geographically targeting regions. You can do that. What it doesn't give you the ability to is to have an objective that people need to act on. So if your post maybe has an objective such as, here's my website, that's one thing, but that's sort of the only objective you can have in a post. Having a completely separate ad set in the back end of Facebook gives you way more opportunities. Now, I always think there's a place for both, right? And so obviously, if you have a good organic Facebook post, I will always recommend don't post something to your Facebook feed and then immediately boost it, because you don't know how it's going to do. So what I like to do is post organically as you will, and maybe at the end of the week, maybe even the end of the month, depending on what you posted about, look at the post that did the best. You know that and by the best, I mean had the best engagement, reached the most amount of people, had the most sort of interest, whatever you value as your metric of best. And that's the post that you should boost. So yes, a boosted post still gives you metrics by which to evaluate it. It still gives you the ability to sort of target your audience, but it doesn't give you the far range that an ad does.
Great answer, Christina. So we have another question. What is good content for a Facebook cover photo? And how about I start with an answer and then maybe you can build on it. So for most of us, it is our brand logo or something that represents our company. It could be an image of a product that you have or products that you have, or some way conveying what your services are, but really it's part of your brand identity on that Facebook cover photo. Christina, what would you add to that?
Perfect answer. And I will add this. I cannot tell you how many high-end reputable businesses, either a cover photo or a banner image that is cut off. So no matter what you choose, which it should be part of your brand, what Aviva said is perfect, make sure it's the correct size for Facebook, because you may have an awesome logo, but it doesn't fit into the Facebook cover image. And so it looks weird, or it cuts off part of your logo. Ugh, yikes. Get it resized. Totally worth it.
Okay. And then this is another good question. So what if I want to use the Facebook page to promote my Facebook group? What is the minimum I could do to keep my business page active?
I would really still try to post 3 times a week just to keep it active. And also, we don't really get into, we get into sort of the types of content here, but not extensively. That's another class that we need to have. But I think part of a good strategy for a Facebook page or any business page is, remember, it doesn't all have to be 100% original content. I think business owners and marketers, we get overwhelmed thinking, oh, I have to create 3 brand new images. I have to create 3 brand new videos a week. Ugh, that's a lot. Remember, one of those posts can be what I call curated content, which could be someone else's video, a link to a cool article, a share from another page, as long as it's relevant to your audience. So you might want to incorporate sort of more curated content if you're just trying to keep your page kind of alive while you focus on your group, which I think might be a great strategy. Great
answer. Great question. Great answer. Okay, let's move on to groups now.
Perfect timing. All right, so some of you might already have Facebook groups or be in Facebook groups. And the whole purpose is that you have a little bit of gatekeeping away from just the big world of Facebook. It sort of segments by interest, topic, and your groups can be public. Everyone can see them. Everyone can come in. Private, people can see them, but they can't come in. They're not admitted unless they fill out, rules or sign up. Or secret. No one knows they're there unless you're invited by someone. And I'm a member of all 3 groups, so I can definitely speak to the opportunities of all. And they're really great because they can offer an opportunity for you to really speak in depth to your followers or fans, or for them to speak to one another. It can give a VIP experience. You can give loyalty drivers, sneak peeks, sort of extra access. So you can use a group for that way. And then all groups, you really have to have clear rules for the group, good participation. And I would always say, if you're going to create a group, like, you might want to create a questionnaire at the beginning as to why people want to be in your group, so that you don't get a bunch of people who are there to just like make trouble. And we had an awesome example rather of a group in a business in St. Louis using groups to their benefit. So Steve's Hot Dogs, you wouldn't maybe think that they would have like a group, right? But they realized that they needed to do something to drive sales, especially when the pandemic hit last year. And so what they did is they had this event, sort of an outdoor socially distanced event, and they reached out to all the local neighborhood associations and all of the Facebook groups that were geographically tied to their area. And they said, can we post in your group about this event? So smart. Wish I had been on that marketing team. The Facebook event reached 28,000 people just because they posted about it in all these groups. It earned them 150 new followers on Facebook, 75 new Instagram followers, and sales were 3 times as much on that particular day as any other day they had had. And people loved it so much, and they knew about it, that social media fans immediately said, you have to do another event like this. This is great that you did it. And then they were able to make some local partnerships come from it. So you can have your own group as a business, or you can ask other groups if you can participate in their groups. So there's some different strategies around how to use groups. And then another thing we talked about earlier was go live. So Facebook Go Live, imagine that you're sort of a news reporter going live on scene. And it allows you to talk to your friends, family, fans live right then and there. And it's huge. live videos get 6 times the interactions of regular videos, 10 times the comments. People watch them 3 times as long. It's amazing. And it's a great way for you to connect with people. Some tips about what you need to do to make your Facebook Live a success. So I'll let you kind of quickly look at those, but basically it needs to be not super produced, but you have to have a great lighting. You have to let people know you're going to go live. You should practice if you've never done a go live, because there are just some things that can look interesting, and you should probably prepare what you're going to say. Some of us are better off the cuff than others. And then once you use Facebook Live regularly, your followers expect it, and people really, really like it. And Facebook Live really like burst on the scene. I don't know if you all remember this a couple years ago. Chewbacca mom, this mom just having a good time in her car. It is still the most viewed Facebook Live. So this tells us your content doesn't need to be the most planned, elevated content that ever existed, but it needs to educate, entertain, inspire.
You guys, if you haven't seen that video, guess what we're going to tell you? We're going to tell you to Google it so you can see it. All right. So just some tips on wrapping up all the great information that Christina's been sharing with you on how to make your business page a success. Really, our goal for you for everything is for the effort, the time, the thinking that you're going to put into it. We want you to reap the benefits. It's all about optimization. So first and foremost, make sure your cover image photo is updated. We've talked to you about how important reach is. So know that if you or your employees share from your business page, your friends will also see the post. So what we mean by that is you post on your business page and then you share it to your personal page. Okay, that way all your friends in your network, which usually is a much bigger number than whoever might be connected to you on business, they will also see it. And then make sure you fill that profile out completely. Actually, Christina and I were just chatting this morning. I had our Solve KC business page, Facebook business page set up 7 years ago. And it occurred to me, it just occurred to me that I probably need to go in and look to make sure I have that whole profile filled out. Now, I will tell you, Facebook does tend to prompt you. They do tend to say, hey, you're almost there, you're whatever percentage there, fill out this and this, and you'll be at 100%. But it's probably worth a look if you set it up a long time ago and it's been kind of dormant to go back in and take a look at it. Next, start getting ready for that content creation, all right? So start to gather photos. They don't have to be new photos. They can be old photos. Again, the best advice I have for you is just get on Facebook and start following some businesses, either people that are owners of businesses or businesses that you really like, and start to get inspired by the kinds of things that they post. Plan your content out, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we wrap everything up. Each post has to have a purpose, okay? And then we've talked a lot about best time to post. Make sure you're mindful when you're planning of the best time to post. And then we've said this many, many times, but we wanted to put it into writing for you. And this page is in your handouts. Engage with your followers. Really one-sided posts are kind of meh. People get kind of tired of them after a while. And after all, you are a business owner. Part of your business's identity is being able to interact with the owner. So the more that you can do that, it makes it feel very, very personal. So we've shared a lot of information with you, and I know, frankly, as we were building this presentation, we got to this stage of the presentation and we wanted to make sure to include tools. We both thought to ourselves, gosh, this can be really overwhelming, right? Depending on where you are today in your journey of a Facebook page for your business. But we wanted you to know that there are great tools out there. So just like many of you probably use QuickBooks for bookkeeping, there are social media tools aimed at making your life a little bit easier. For content creation, the tools that we recommend you take a look at are Canva, WordSwag, and Pablo by Buffer. These companies don't pay us. They don't even know that we're recommending them. These are just the ones in our experience and in our clients' experiences that we have found to be the most user-friendly. You can always do it by yourself with the publishing tools that are available on Facebook. There are also apps that can act kind of like your social media person. So the first three, Hootsuite, Social Pilot, and Buffer, those are phenomenal from a scheduling standpoint. The next two, Meet Edgar and Sprout Social, are a little more sophisticated, but they schedule and they also help curate content. So Christina talked about, you don't always have to be the originator of the post or the author of the post. You can use curated content. This is true not only for Facebook, but it works on the other social media platforms as well. So as an example, if you want to become a thought leader on LinkedIn, these are phenomenal resources to pull articles or surveys or you name it of the industry that you want to be a thought leader on to share on your LinkedIn page with all of your followers. Okay, so go ahead, Christina.
Oh, I'll give you a pro tip. They kind of hide it. But if you really just want to schedule a Facebook post or maybe just Facebook and LinkedIn or just Facebook and Instagram, Hootsuite has an option where you can link 3 channels for free. And so you've got to look around for it, but it's there. And Hootsuite is a very nominal price to pay, and it's sort of, they all graduate the more channels you have. And yes, Hootsuite does not pay me either, but they should, because I really talk about Hootsuite a lot, and I do talk about
exactly.
Canva.
I feel the same way. I think we need to contact Hootsuite and Sprout Social and talk about the fact that we like talk them up all the time.
I know, new influencers to these. So we're going to talk next about trends. And as I start talking about trends, use the chat for if there's anything we've talked about so far that you want to learn more about, or you'd be interested in seeing a whole class or a whole series about. We want to know. It helps us create our content, and the Women's Business Center wants to know. It helps them craft their content for the next year as well. Aha, trends.
So the question is, and we do have 2 other questions that we'll answer after this one, but please, if you've got one, please feel free to add it to the queue. So what are some current Facebook trends that could impact business owners? And the main reason we're sharing this with you is it's changed. If we asked this question a year ago or 18 months ago, it's a trend. So that means the answers were different. So here are the top 3 trends, and Christina's going to elaborate on them for you.
So Facebook has gotten really, really good at using AI and about creating and delivering ads that are hyper focused at a target demographic. And so I sort of alluded to this when I was talking about building your ads and saying, well, let Facebook choose that for you, or let's Facebook choose that for you. And there are different ways behind the scenes that it can. There's a campaign budget optimization. You give them an amount, and Facebook sort of decides how you should spend that money to get the best results. There's automatic placements. I was talking about this. Instead of you saying, I want my ads to run in the feed, or I only want my ads to run on mobile or only on desktop, Facebook chooses for you, and it runs your ads on Instagram, Audience Network, Messenger, and it really optimizes it for where your audiences are that day. And it can be very impactful on the results of your ads. One thing I really suggest is using the dynamic format and creative tool. This for Facebook ads. This gives you the ability to load up a bunch of assets, meaning photos, videos, and a bunch of copy, and Facebook matrixes it out, deciding which pieces of copy and content work best together. It's amazing. And so I really, really suggest that. And as much as you can personalize your marketing efforts, the better. Facebook and marketing in general has gotten really into AR, or augmented reality, and virtual experiences. So on Facebook, 63% of Americans have already tried AR experiences from a brand. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. So We Makeup, which is the picture of this woman here, they launched an AR ad on Facebook that let people test drive their new shade of lipstick. And they saw a 26.7% increase in purchases. So if you have the type of service or opportunity that this is good for, I say go for it. And then third, I will always preach user-generated content until the cows come home. But for sure, that is a huge trend in all of social media, always, but especially this year, coming out of the pandemic, we saw a lot of user-generated content. It is no accident that TikTok was on like barely any American's radar until the pandemic. And then it exploded, 80 million users a month here in the United States. That's huge. It's because we love authentic content. So use your user-generated content in your ads, in your posts, and throughout. It's a really, really great strategy.
Okay, so we've got 2 questions in the queue, and I bet they're on a lot of people's minds. So they're wonderful questions. One is, if I have a new blog and a Facebook account, what is a realistic goal in terms of new followers per month, engagement per month, or whatever the right metrics are?
So I think it depends if you're going to use organic only, or if you're going to pay and do Facebook ads and things like that. So a reasonable goal is, to see you pick up 10, 20, 30 followers, depending on how you're marketing it yourself. Once you add paid amplification to that, Facebook ads, boosted posts, it depends on your budget, but unfortunately, I can't tell you because I don't know what the blog is about, and there are like 1,000 other factors. But the good thing is Facebook can tell you, it can give you an estimate. Let's say I want to spend $20 every week. It'll give you an estimate of how many people will hit your website. And so you can start to look at some of those estimates. And again, you can Google sort of what's a realistic goal for me to have, or what's a realistic amount of followers if I use X amount of money.
Okay, that's great, Christina. Thank you. And then our other question says, from experience, I have a feeling when you post on your business page and then share on your personal page, Facebook doesn't share with too many of your friends because they might want you to pay to promote it through your business page. Is that true?
There's no data that reflects that. In fact, Facebook is still viewing that as an engagement or a share. So actually, Facebook is viewing that original piece of content as more popular or more relevant. So I wouldn't think that you would be penalized for sharing on your personal page. It depends on what the content is once it lands on your personal page, if your personal feed is interested in it or not. And so that might be why you're seeing maybe diminishing efforts. But on the business side, Facebook will like that you shared it.
Okay, so let me ask the question another way, because I think I know the answer, but just so everyone here today is clear. Is it better to post on your business page and then share to your personal page, or just literally like copy from your business page and then paste it to your personal page?
Fair.
Sharing is better. Okay.
Sharing is better because you get credit, so to speak, for that share or that engagement. And the more engagements that post gets or your page gets, the more popular, essentially, Facebook is viewing it as. So at the end of the day, relevance, signals, rankings, you can just think of Facebook as one big popularity game. And the more views you have, the more likes you have, the more engagements you have, the more shares you have, the more Facebook says, aha, people like this page. This page will keep people on Facebook longer. I want to show this page to more people. So that's sort of how you can look at everything.
Okay, that's super helpful. Thanks, Christina. Okay, so we are now getting into the last 8 minutes of our class together, and the next many slides are actually in your handouts. I would call them our recap of wisdom slides. So some content do's and don'ts. Again, we want you to create a social media strategy that links up with your business goals. So we will always encourage you to think about how every post impacts your brand. And we will always encourage you to be professional on your business page. Striking that right balance of content is necessary, mostly so people don't get bored and tuned out, but also it gives your business some personality and some dimension on social media. And we've said this many, many times, tell your story. It's not a hard sell. People tune out to that. So get creative and have fun. Think about it like you were having a conversation with somebody live. What are the various kinds of things that you would want them to know about your business? We are all about tracking your results. So figure out what the right key performance indicators are for your business and your strategy. Is it the total number of followers that you have on your Facebook business page? Is it engagement metrics? Do you want them ultimately to go to your website? And remember, you can't send them to your website all the time or you'll get penalized. But if you know that that's one of your metrics, then you might want to just put it into the mix every now and then. We've shared with you a lot about algorithms. So make sure you use things like tags. So a tag could be tagging somebody else in your company. It could be tagging another business. It could be tagging anyone or anything that also has a Facebook page. And then again, hashtags. And what's the magic number on hashtags for Facebook? 3. It's 3. Okay. And then this last one, reciprocity. If I could, I would have this pop out of your screen and do a little dance for you. I might just pull it out to have it be, oh, there we go. Have it be its own slide. I cannot say enough. And we've talked to you about it throughout our time today, how important it is to engage, not only with people that are liking and commenting on your posts, but with others as well. So Christina and I have a whole host of businesses that we follow across all of their platforms. And every time we see a post we like, if it's appropriate, we share. Most of the time we comment because we want to support other businesses. We want you to do the same. You can do it for one another if you want to include your information in the chat. If you follow us on our social media, we will follow you on your social media. Think of it as a community. The more engaged you are in the platform, the better your algorithms will be. It's just that simple. And we've kind of shared every which way to kind of prove to you that that's how the algorithm works. So we want you to take that away. This slide we like including just so as you start to figure out what kind of content is appropriate. It's just a little decision tree matrix that you can use and ask yourself, and it is in your handouts. The next few slides, this one is about, again, it's just another recap on how you build your plan. We really recommend you build your plan 30 days minimum at a time, but leave that flexibility for trending topics. You can set aside time at the end of each month to work on your calendar, or frankly, a lot of small businesses, especially as they grow, social media is the thing that they just don't have time for. Hire someone to do it for you. You can hire someone like Christina to do it for you. You can hire your kids. You can hire an MBA student. There are a lot of people depending on the level of sophistication of what you need and what your goals are. Our recommendation, honestly, is spending 4 to 6 hours a week. Okay. Now, if you plan in advance and you schedule things, you might have more at one time and then you're set for the month. So figure out what works best for you. Gather your content along the way. We talked to you about apps. And again, don't forget, it makes a difference what time you post. Regarding what you post, there's always something to post. So here are some examples of things that you can post. If you are a woman business owner, this is Women's History Month. So there's a lot of great content all over Facebook about people that inspired women business owners. women business owners themselves talking about why they started a business, or there's so many different takes that you can take on it. You can use content that talks about promotions or contests, spotlighting employees or any company awards that you have, customer appreciation, questions. We've talked about user-generated content a lot. There are some fun and whimsical holidays, and then there are major holidays. Sometimes they're a month-long celebration. Sometimes it's a day on the calendar. All of those things are great content for you to post. So I am going to get to the 2 questions that are in the chat here, but just as we continue on this flow, these are some tools for you to have. So use March to establish and update your business page. And then we've given you calendar sheets to plan out Q2. All right. And that's what the next few pages are. For those of you who already don't follow us on social media, our last page is going to give you all that information. Here's a quick preview into the next 2 classes that we are teaching. Next week, we're taking off for spring break, but starting on March 24th, we have a phenomenal class on LinkedIn. And then the last Wednesday of the month, March 31st, we will do a combined class for Instagram and Twitter. Incredibly popular classes. We get a lot of great questions and traction for those classes. It looks like Brandy has included the recording link. She has also throughout included the sign up link. So if there are any other questions, you've got a minute or 2. Here are the handles that we are on personally and in our businesses. And once more, here's the link on Eventbrite if you want to sign up for our next 2 classes. Thank you for joining us today. Christina, do you have any final comments?
Thanks so much for letting us chat about Facebook. You know, connect with our businesses, Solve KC and Ovations Digital on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever you'd like. We're happy to connect with you there. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks to talk about all things LinkedIn.
Christina and Aviva, thank you so much. This was really great information. And thank you to everyone that joined us today. As Aviva has already mentioned, I've shared with you the link to our YouTube channel where we will be posting the recording from today's session. We do edit that, so it takes us a couple of days to get that posted, but definitely feel free to check out all of our previous sessions that are already up on our YouTube channel. And then we also have the link to Eventbrite if you would like to join us for LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, which I am sure that would be very beneficial for many of you that were on the call today. So thanks again. And Christina and Aviva, thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.